Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Talkin Video. I'm your host, Chris Noble, and this episode I'm excited to be talking to a good friend of mine who's an accounting wizard and also uses video quite a lot to educate people on the world of finance, all the things you can be doing as an entrepreneur and as an individual to improve your finances. So I wanted to welcome to the show my good friend Mit Perinpanyagam. And he's going to obviously correct me on the pronunciation, a little bit of his last name, but I got it as close as I can. Welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. So today I want to talk about how you've been using your videos. You know, I've been seeing them on Instagram, and we did a video series. Wow, I don't even know, a couple of years ago called Financial Therapy. And I will put a link to that in the description so you guys can check that out after watching this episode. But you know, let's go back to when we first met. Time is elusive to me these days, but it's definitely going back a couple of years. And when you first started thinking about, okay, I'm going to start doing video for this idea called financial therapy to help, you know, bring some knowledge to people, but also to bring traffic to your own website for your CPA practice. What was the first thing that popped into your head? Like, oh man, I got to start making video. When was that moment for you?
Yeah, that moment I wouldn't say was an overnight light bulb. It probably was after talking about it with yourself and just getting to that point where I'm like, oh shoot, why am I not doing video? I've always been interested in how one can utilize social media in business, but also accounting is traditionally an older business where it's very face-to-face. You're referred to by friends and family or referral networks. You don't really do a lot of public speaking per se to be able to obtain clients. And so when that was happening, I started to realize, especially with the different types of clientele that I was working with, I was often repeating my answers and repeating, you know, hey, this is what your scenario is. This is what you should be doing. You know, this is what it is. Boom, boom, boom. And I started to realize that from all the different entrepreneurs I kept talking to, they were going through the exact same problems. They had the exact same issues when it came to setting up things from an accounting and finance standpoint, and even just some of handling through like regulatory processes and things of that nature. And then as I started to realize that, myself personally, when I don't really know anything about a topic that I'm not really knowledgeable of, I usually go to YouTube or Google and try to figure out how to fix it. So previously, whenever I had a broken laptop or had to fix something, I would just Google how to do it, and a YouTube video would be there to give me a step-by-step instruction. Obviously, accounting is a very, it's more complex. Well, it's not that complex, but it can be complex depending on your scenario. So what I mean by that is that people always think there's a generic answer that's just an automatic answer to all situations. And that's not really the case. It's why a lot of accounting practitioners will usually want to sit down with the client, get to understand what their exact scenario is, what they're doing specifically in their specific business, and what their life circumstances are. And then from there, they're able to come to a place where, hey, this is what's going on. But I found myself consistently having to repeat some of the very basic fundamentals. And as I kept having to face that, I kept asking clients, hey, like, why haven't you been able to find out this before or research it, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them have said, hey, I've had a previous accountant before, but whatever they said, it just really went over my head. No one could just really talk to me in like plain English so that someone who didn't go to school for this and, you know, get a professional designation can understand in pretty much layman terms. And I had a pretty good, relationship with a lot of my clients in which I just speak pretty straightforward and break it down in a way that they could understand it. And so I realized some of these very basic concepts, such as like, what's a balance sheet? Because, hey, if you're never in the space, you don't even know what that is. So what's a balance sheet? What's an income statement? Like, what's cash flow forecast? What's the importance of it? Obviously, some people understand, oh, hey, that's what it is, but they don't really know what goes into it. So some of the first and early financial therapy videos that we did together, Chris, were specifically focused on, hey, this is what it is. This is what that requires and why it's actually important to your business. So by putting that all together, I started to realize, hey, clients are really finding a lot of value from this. Even though I wasn't really the subject matter expert in regards to video editing and utilizing it. And unfortunately, I had stopped for a while of using video or posting as much financial therapy videos just because we never had a chance to connect and, you know, growing business and things of that nature. And so as things continued since we last did it, I've always found video to be useful, especially in regards to the Instagram page where we make posts in regards to how to structure your real estate investments, how to structure your real estate, how to like set up your business, like pros and cons of incorporation and things of that nature. We found that these micro video content and this video content was really useful because it could be shared pretty quickly. It wasn't a 40-minute video on how to do your bookkeeping where someone who's a business owner who is very skilled in, let's say, sales or design is not going to spend the time in accounting and finance if that isn't their strong suit. And as a result, their business is going to fail. But can they watch a quick 30-second or a minute video on their phone while they're on Instagram? For sure. And as a result, we've been able to actually educate a lot more people of our content just through video. Since myself personally can only meet so many people in a day. And with this content, I was able to reach a lot more. And I guess it just validated even further from the fact that I was able to start doing a lot more webinars with people as well, and then sharing that video content where there's a lot of individuals who were never part of the original webinar. We're also still learning from the questions that the audience had.
That's great. I got a lot of questions that just came out of that. And just for our audience, I wanted to also give Mit a bit more of an introduction here. So he is a partner at a company called Galleon CPA. He's also a CFO at Foresight Analytics, and he's just involved. Mit is an entrepreneur at the heart of it all. He's involved in a lot of companies, and these companies will be using video in different sort of ways. And let's talk about, I guess. So my first question would be, how did those small, let's say those micro videos you're doing for either, your original CPA business or Galleon CPA, how did those small, like 30-second, 1 minute, whatever videos, how did those drive traffic to your websites? And did you guys get any conversions with clients out of that material?
Yeah, I would say at first, I think the problem, especially with professionals such as accountants or even lawyers, I'd say, or those who don't typically work in the arts, they usually say, I do X and Y will result. So if I put video, I better see 10 signups because that's when it's worthwhile for me. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, especially if you're new and you're putting content out just now. You've got to build a following and you need to get more traction. But the best part about this is whether it's a video content or written content, once you've put it out there, it's there forever. And what we're finding is that maybe the original year that I put it out, maybe some people, we had a few people see it and then talk to us and sign up, and it was well worth it. But really where we saw the value was in year 2 and year 3, where more and more people, the videos are up for longer, there's more traffic heading towards it. Other people will say, hey, do you know, should I use Mit services or Galleon services? And we'll have clients say, yeah, here, if you want to just learn more about this topic, they've already talked about it, go ahead and watch these videos. So now we're not having to repeat that content because again, we're both enabling them to learn to be able to be self-sufficient, but also helping it so that when we have the conversation with them one-on-one, we don't have to walk them through all the basic fundamentals that they're able to pick up.
Okay. And then, you mentioned before, and this is a great area that I'm likely going to get more into in terms of my own video content and educating people, because it's a huge area, especially right now. We're speaking in July 2020. Everyone's moving online. You talked about webinars. So how are you conducting your webinars? And then how are you repurposing that footage? You said afterwards, right? People can still watch the webinar after the fact. And how are you finding that not only helpful for your clients, but is it, again, helpful for your business too?
For sure. Thanks, Chris. So right now, a lot of our webinars are predominantly driven through partnerships and relationships, whether it's with like our business is mainly focused on real estate investors with a small portion towards traditional businesses and tech startups. So for the tech startup side of things, we have a partnership arrangement with this other organization where we educate their members as well on everything as it relates to startups, fundraising, and finance and accounting setup on that front and things to look out for. And so they are able to help push our content. Even though we go live and stuff like that, sometimes the number of viewers might be low at first. But afterwards, we have the video content that we're then able to chop up into this micro content to say, hey, this is what we had to say about startups. That's because sometimes, again, these are very business entrepreneurs and business owners who have so many other stresses on their mind. They don't have time to watch a 1-hour webinar. So by taking that video from whether it's a Zoom call or Google Hangouts call, and then we are able to have our video editor chop it up into the clips that are needed to then post and be shared.
Yeah, I love that because, and that's what I'm even doing with this podcast that we're on right now, is where similar to the format of like the Joe Rogan show, for example, where there's like, sometimes he goes for 3 hours, right? Not many people are going to sit down and watch that all at once, right? That's about as long as Lord of the Rings or one of the, those films. So, but what he'll do is they'll edit up like a 5-minute teaser or a 1 minute, little snippet. So those little bits that you're editing, those little small things might actually end up being more powerful than the full webinar, itself, because that's what people are going to searching afterwards. So when you're done your webinar and your editor's chopped up little bits, what's the plan after that? So what do you guys do? Do you post on Instagram and LinkedIn? And then, is that like something where you post one of those a day so that there's continual content, or how do you roll that out?
Yeah, so I haven't been the best at it. I've only been predominantly doing it on Instagram, where we release it maybe once a week, the content. There's quite a bit. And so a lot of the links for the whole webinar end up being shared with some of these other investors and other clients. So they'll watch the whole thing, but there's also other micro content that is then just posted once a week on our Instagram page. But we should totally be also posting on LinkedIn.
Well, it's all good. I'm always just curious, is because the rollout of all that content is also just almost as important as the content, itself.
And honestly, that's like one of the more time-consuming parts, right? Like, we need to actually talk after this for getting the content to be rolled out sooner. Sometimes the people you have to edit and put it out aren't able to do it fast enough towards the demand that the clients need.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about how I know you've been doing those Instagram posts, right? And I've seen those. What kind of advice can you give people who are just getting into video? They're definitely not looking forward to being in front of the camera, and you're like, oh God, like I got to press record, and then I got to put myself out there on the internet, and oh no, like there's a million doubts going through their mind. What would you say to someone who's just thinking of starting to film themselves?
Man, I'm the worst. I don't think I'm even good at it. I'm the worst at this, right? Like, I'm still unnatural in front of the camera. It's just not normal to me. That's not in my nature to do so. I like to be pretty low key. I don't like putting myself out there. So this has definitely been a crazy endeavor of having to put stuff out there. But I will say that I don't really regret having put myself out there. And every time I post, I'm like, okay, great. Like, so many people will message after being like, oh, I found so much value from it. And then you're like, oh, hey, like this was all actually worth it, even though I'm an Akko Taco for the first like few minutes before someone's talking to me and I'm getting it rolling, right? And at the beginning of COVID, when all the new government programs were being rolled out, I had done some videos on CERB and things of that nature, and I had even gone live. And so that was a very interesting experience because I've done it previously where someone was a host and was asking me questions and I was going live, which again is pretty simple to then be able to answer questions and handle it. But sometimes when you go live, it's just an audience typing to you and you've got to answer it and be there. Again, like anything with practice, you're able to then effectively communicate better. You're able to be more positive about yourself as a result of doing video. And I'm sure that was the same with a lot of other YouTubers and people who post video content.
Yeah, I mean that's what I hear across the board is it's tough at first, but like anything, practice makes perfect. And let's talk a bit more about the lives. So I guess, COVID hit, all of a sudden there's so much financial turmoil, everyone's needing answers. Did you start to think, okay, I need to go live purely because it was easier, or because it was just a different way to reach your audience and there were so many questions, you're kind of like, this might be the easiest way to do it?
So as things were coming out, even I would say like MPs and stuff in Parliament were pretty slow to get into action. Like the Minister of Finance would release an update on Monday and they'd be like, okay, come join the webinar on Friday. And it's like, man, there's literally people who need this money or need to figure out what's going on. Their livelihoods are at stake. Okay, some people are going to need answers. So how about, we stay on top of this and just put the content out there and then answer questions as much as possible for what we're able to research and find out, and communicate it again in layman's terms that someone who doesn't know how to maybe consume the information can understand it. And so fortunately we were able to get out there and just put it out there just to help individuals and business owners. Actually, for the most part, it doesn't really. It's not really the purpose of that. Those videos weren't really to drive new clients in or things of that nature. It was really just to help the overall community, and that was just our way of contributing towards it.
But I think, you touch on something though that's interesting, and this is what I find with content creation in general. If you're creating content, maybe with not having it the sole purpose being to drive traffic to your business, but actually just to help people, sometimes that becomes your best content, and then inadvertently, almost as a secondary, like a bonus, it will drive traffic because you're providing value.
100%. So there's a key word that you said there, which is value, providing value. A lot of people will try to drop some nuggets and say, hey, come pay me XYZ or sign up for my course. I'm not really like the biggest fan of that. I think there's a lot of content that can be out there, and enough free content that you can have a basic understanding so that when you do pay for any services or any sort of advice, you have some sort of education when you're coming to talk about that topic. Especially as it relates to maybe some more in-depth, and I'm just going to use lawyers who are out there. When you want to talk to a lawyer about a topic, usually they'll go and explain every single basic thing from the beginning. And if you have, say, an hour consultation or half an hour consultation, 20 minutes has gone to just explaining you the basics. And I'm sure these lawyers themselves have had to explain this like 20 million times. If they had just made a video, they can just say, hey, before you come on in today, just check out this video. And you got a little base here, and then we can come and then we can talk about it briefly. Instead of taking 20 minutes, maybe we'll do a quick recap of 5 and then spend the rest of the time actually on your situation. And so part of us doing these videos and putting that content out there is to just help them, even regardless if they come to us, or maybe they'll use a different accountant or someone else, and that's perfectly fine. Or they'll go to someone else for like real estate investing or other things of that nature, or for like foresight and stuff. But all we say is, if we can provide you more than enough information, you clearly know that we're subject matter experts on the area. It helps resolve a lot of doubts of whether, hey, I don't know if I should really be working with you, things of that nature, because it's all already out there. You already know a good portion of the knowledge that we have, so that when you come to us, you already know, hey, I can trust this guy. I can just immediately move forward with my business.
I love that too. So it's interesting, I providing value, and that's a big thing that, the audience that's watching right now should really be taking away is the more value you provide on kind of every front of your business, especially if it's free value, it just creates a good association with your brand. So even if people aren't buying from you right off the bat, but you're providing this great value information, and you're basically like, again, we're coming like business in even the corporate world is shifting, like humanitarian, goodwill, ethics, all these things like are actually becoming more important, which is nice, right? Like actually being a good person, helping out people from like the goodness of your heart. Yes, we're all here to make money, but that is not the full picture. We are here to help one another, especially in these times. So if you're out there and you're providing value, even if it's not a direct transaction that happens right afterwards, let's say, like you mentioned, someone else goes to a different accounting firm, the fact that they watched your video and they're like, oh man, Mit though, he really does know his stuff. And sometimes it's like a year later, they're like, okay, I need something really big right now. And you know what? Like I watched 5 of Mit's videos. I got a lot of great information. I'm going to go message him now because this is a big thing that I've got in my mind that I need. And I really appreciate what he's doing, and I think again, like that just goes back to creating a good relationship. And if you're doing that for your business, that's great marketing in and of itself, right?
Yeah, it really speaks to your brand, both as a business, but also as a person. I'll say that we've had clients who saw our videos and webinars maybe a year or 2 ago. And at that time, they felt they were too small or it didn't really make sense. But then as things changed for them, they went back to their mind Rolodex of, hey, who do I know who can do this? Oh, the person who provided me so much value that I had a base understanding. Let me go and talk to them.
Yeah. And then there's things down the road where, people could be finding these books written by Mit, years down the road, subject matter expert. Now we're talking ebooks and we can be selling this information,
For sure.
In perpetuity. Right. So,
and, I'd probably write an ebook or write a book if I didn't despise writing so much.
yeah, outsource it, right? Just dictate it into a mic and then send
Right?
it
Yeah,
off, right?
for sure.
Okay, great. Well, I got a couple more questions left, and then we'll wrap up the episode here. But going back to kind of talking about again, I think you're a great example of someone who, like you said, you weren't loving the idea of getting in front of the camera. You weren't like, oh my god, I can't wait to get the lights on and all this kind of stuff. I enjoy being in front of the camera, and even I get a little antsy sometimes in front of the camera. So going back to helping out our audience, let's say there's people watching who are really not quite sure about starting video. When you did your first couple of videos, without me, like I know we did videos together. You had me to support you on some of that, but I know you've done some just on your cell phone or on your computer. What what's your, I guess nowadays, go-to setup for making your own video content with no help from anybody else? What have you found useful?
So I'm pretty basic. I just end up using my cell phone or my laptop when I do a webinar with people and have the content recorded that way. But as it relates to how do I feel as I get in front and how should new members feel when they need to get up in front, um, it's, it's not an easy task, but it also really isn't that hard. It's just a matter of, okay, click, you're recording, or hey, I'm doing this webinar, you get in front and you start talking. And maybe you fumble, maybe you're not that great. That's okay. I'm very positive. My first video was horrible. And don't also feel bad if you feel like you're drained by the end of making the video. The day that me and Chris shot a few videos and I had him there for support, we did multiple takes on some of these videos too. I was drained. I was drained. I didn't know what I had to enunciate better. I had to focus on. Whew, that was hella stressful. But even today, like even right now as I'm doing this, I'm like, oh man, am I enunciating properly? Am I really communicating my message and how I'm really feeling about it? And you might notice now I'm a little bit more energetic as we've been doing the podcast more. And you know what? I'm a little bit of a slow starter as that works. So I would say just literally put your camera in front of you and start recording and just talk to it. Or even at first, just have a family member, colleague, spouse, whoever on the other side of the phone, and just talk to them as if or just talk to them if you want. Just talk to them in the webinar or talk to them on your phone through a video chat, and then just have it being recorded. And if that does, and that'll slowly start getting like, oh, that person really isn't going to judge me. They're not going to really say anything, and that's okay. Like there's so many reasons why people will judge you. There's nothing you can control about that. You just got to put your content out there and just keep doing it more often. I know Josh Shacknow, who was on your show, he's pretty good at it. He's always been telling me to put content out on a daily basis, and you know what? I really haven't done that. I'm not the best. I'm not the best example, but even being not the best example, I still try to put at least something out once or twice a month. So I just say, like, you know what? This podcast has also now motivated me to go and just put some video out this week. But going back to Josh, he's an immigration lawyer and he's using TikTok. He's got 4,000 something followers on TikTok who want to learn about immigration law. Like, that's insanity. Which other immigration law firm are you going to say has 4,000 whatever followers who are interested in immigration? But that's what it is, right? Like, social media gives you a way to reach so many people who otherwise don't have the networks and relationships to be able to find you. Everyone's go-to isn't, hey, let me go on LinkedIn and find a referral, or not like, oh, hey, I know someone who's a CPA lawyer or a videographer. If I didn't know you, Chris, what am I going to do when I want to find video is, okay, let me go Google something. Let me see Yelp. Let me find something, whatever. But the first thing I asked you actually when we met a few years ago was like, hey man, do you have any video content? Can you show it to me? And you had a couple of YouTube links that you just opened up on your phone and you showed me your video. And I was like, damn, you know what you're doing. Let's do this, right? And similarly, when people will ask us about certain things, whether like it's one of our real estate stuff or something like that, we'll say, here, check this video out. You can totally see how this works. If you're interested now, like, reach out again and we'll move forward. And same thing with accounting and all the other stuff that I get involved in.
Yeah, and it's interesting, video can be this way of, if you've got a company that's got a lot of, again, questions that need to be answered, if you've got a FAQ part of the website, videos can become the answer to those questions, especially if you're dealing with something that's more complicated. You can literally record a video on Zoom, screen share a PowerPoint that you already showed your clients, explain it, and then you may save hours and hours of time doing something like that.
But not even just hours. It's more than hours. I probably think you're going to save like a year of your lifetime, because if you're a professional out there who deals with clients and has to repeat yourself, especially on certain things, especially if you have a process where it's somewhat like a checklist of, hey, this is how onboarding is going to work. You're going to need to do this, this, and this. These are the documents. This is what it looks like. This is what I need from you. This is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. This is the end result. And this is how you can pay us. That conversation, if not recorded on video or anything like that, can take anywhere between 10 minutes to 20 minutes plus, depending on if they need to be walked through certain steps. So once you take a video recording and you can show a video recording of step-by-step process, how do you upload and share information? How do you do this? Blah, blah, blah. It allows your clients, customers, and users to just be able to know how to do like most of this administrative and tasks that can be automated.
Yeah, it's a great point, and video being a great way to educate. If you're using it purely for internal, let's forget promo and marketing, all that stuff. This is an internal device that, I remember in my old company that specialized in commercial industrial real estate visualization videos. We realized when we were bringing in new animators, we had a very specific style of animation. Could I sit down on the phone and describe that to them? Maybe. But really what the best way is to send visuals. And what's the best way to do a visual is honestly to do a screen recording of the head of operations, who's also our head animator, going through the whole animation process, showing, clicking, doing this, dragging that over there, record it all, send it to the person, they watch it, done. It's like watching a tutorial on YouTube. So, again, video can just save you hours and days of education time too, right? So interesting. Well, okay, Mitt, my last question before we wrap things up. So when you're doing your video productions, and like we were saying, you've done a great job of kind of biting the bullet, putting yourself out there, as tough as that is. What's the feeling like when you first started making video, and then you got to see the final product, and like you said, it was exhausting. It's very, very tiring. People don't, necessarily think about that when it comes to video, how tiring it is. But was there a sense of satisfaction for you when you started to get on that ball and get the ball rolling with video and seeing yourself on screen, or was it just utterly terrifying?
I'm sure it is utterly terrifying, but it was really exciting too, to see like, oh wow, like now there's content, it's there, and I don't have to worry about this again. / it's helping a bunch of people, because especially because we posted the content on YouTube, so a lot of people are like, oh my god, this is great, blah blah blah. And even on our website, when we have new clients come on board, they'll fill out an appointment schedule or something like that, where they can say that, like, how do they find us? And they'll be like, hey, I found you on YouTube because you were doing this and this and this.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Mitt, for joining me today. And for our audience watching, if you want to get in touch with Mitt, I will leave his contact information in the description below, and we'll chat about that after we stop recording this, of what specifically Mitt wants to leave in the description for you guys to connect with him. But definitely, connect with Mitt for anything on the financial side of life, whether it's business, financial advice, or personal. Mitt is just a phenomenal individual when it comes to his wealth of knowledge. And of course, like he was mentioning, his real estate investments are also a really fantastic area that he's becoming absolutely masterclass level of knowledge coming in here. So reach out to Mitt, connect with him. Of course, if you want to connect with me, all my information is going to be below as well. And thanks again for watching Talkin Video. And thank you, Mitt, for joining me. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for all the kind words, Chris, and thanks for having me. Hopefully this helps some of the people who are sitting on the ledge of, hey, should I post or not? Like, just take the leap and just do it. Worst case scenario, you can always delete them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So everyone listen to Mitt. He knows exactly what he's saying. Just do it. Just do it. And thanks again for watching. And Mitt, just stay on after I stop recording, and we'll chat a little bit more. But for all of those of you who are watching, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.